Hello there, it's Tania Gabrielle, Wealth Astro-Numerologist. Welcome to Star Codes. This is the podcast where we look at an upcoming event in the stars and numbers, the astrology and numerology. In this case, the Gemini full moon on December 15th, 2024. This is the final full moon of the year, so very important. It happens at 9:01 a.m. Universal Time, 4:01 a.m. Eastern New York, and 1:01 a.m. in Pacific Time, Los Angeles. And you don't need to be a Gemini to benefit from this forecast. You have this full moon somewhere in your birth chart. The sun is in Sagittarius at 23 degrees, opposite the moon in Gemini at 23 degrees, and you will experience this in some capacity depending on where it is in your birth chart. So one of the big stories with this Gemini full moon is that there are a lot of oppositions. Of course, the sun in Sagittarius is opposite the moon in Gemini. Then we also have the moon conjunct Jupiter, meaning they're merged together, which means Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, is opposite the sun in Sagittarius. And then we have Pluto opposite Mars, which is a continual opposition over the next few months. We're in and out of it, basically. And we have Venus, which is conjunct Pluto, opposite Mars as well. So altogether, there are 4 oppositions, and they involve the 2 benefics, which is really good news. The 2 benefics meaning Venus and Jupiter. So there is a lot of very exciting energy that can be cleared. And the most exciting part, aside from all those oppositions, is that Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, stations direct, starts moving forward again. So it's at a standstill at the moment of this full moon in Gemini, which is Mercury's sign. So it really indicates that there's going to be a lot of forward momentum and activity, which are very much part of the Gemini experience to begin with. Gemini is a fast-moving air sign. It governs motion and communication and facts and information and how we communicate, how we write, how we speak. And so we're really going to be able to assimilate the Mercury retrograde that started on November 25th and ends on the 15th of December, the moment of this Gemini full moon. We will be able to assimilate what it is we gathered, our new ideas and the conversations we had and how they impacted us. And there were a lot of deep conversations during this time. So because Gemini is curious and wants to move and is very meticulous as well, and Sagittarius, where the sun is more the big vision sign, so it's not as meticulous. It really doesn't want to look at details. We do have that kind of oppositional energy as well, especially because Jupiter is in Gemini, conjunct the moon. Mercury is in Sagittarius. They're in each other's opposite signs. That's called mutual reception, which is usually a really good thing. They do support each other, and with this full moon, it's even more accentuated. The thing is, when a planet is in its opposite sign, it is in its detriment. So that also means it's a little bit weakened. But because of the full moon, we have an actual enhancement here. So with Gemini, the curiosity takes you to look at both sides of the coin, right? The masculine and feminine, for example, the light and the dark. So the activation moves you through the masculine state, and then you move into the feminine state of receptivity. And that is really the action that Gemini represents. So you are observing frequencies as they're reflected back to you. And the key with Gemini is to observe closely. And that's done through Mercury, which processes information and data, and Mercury then can interpret that inner push and pull within you. So Mercury rules this full moon. Sagittarius is where the sun is. And because Jupiter and Mercury are so part of this full moon, there's going to be a lot of joy and expansion and movement, reaching out across the aisle and feeling that sense of wisdom and allowing it to take us to that place of higher learning that Sagittarius represents, but also the place of integration of information that Gemini represents. So there'll be a lot of talking and communicating and integrating, both being very meticulous and detail oriented with seeing the big picture. So they're both the practical and visionary energy is being activated, which is really wonderful. Sometimes Sagittarian energy and Jupiterian energy is hard to define because it's based on having a deep faith. It doesn't necessarily turn to data and information like Gemini does. And so when we have such a strong Jupiterian and Jupiter's conjunct the moon theme, there is really a sense of being creatively engaged and having faith in that creative process where you have your imagination, your big vision. And what's helping this to be implemented is Venus and Pluto. They are conjunct, and they are both in Aquarius, which defines the Aquarian age that we're really moving into. And they are trine to Gemini. Aquarius is an air sign, Gemini is an air sign. So Venus conjunct Pluto is trine to the moon and to Jupiter. This is wonderful because it brings a lot of mysticism merged with optimism. And it means you get an instant understanding of the transcendental, of deep, deep, profound subject matters. And these will feel very empowering. Part of that empowerment is because Pluto is opposite to Mars. And of course, that had started way back in October, November. But when these two planets are either conjunct each other, square each other, or opposite each other, it really gives you a deep commitment to something. So that commitment to something that you feel deeply will help you transcend any challenge, stressful energy. It helps you to bring the sacred masculine and divine feminine into balance. Remember that Venus is conjunct Pluto in Aquarius, and you can channel this energy into really activating the creative spark in you in such a beautiful way. So the opposition of Moon and Jupiter to the Sun, and then Pluto and Venus to Mars, activates 6 of the planets. Of course, the Sun is a star, but 6 are in oppositions, and this really means there's energy that's being harmonized, which happens during a full moon anyway. But in this case, because Mercury is stationing direct, we really are able to speak and write and clear things through communication, through quick thinking, through this deep passion to clear the air. And that means you're encouraged also to be adventurous, to achieve, to take some risks. There's a lot of magnetic energy with Mars and Pluto involved. And I can't emphasize enough that the Pluto-Venus conjunction trine the Moon-Jupiter conjunction is so extraordinary. That's a quadruple trine between these 4 planets that will really help us through some of the tension, because the depth of imagination, creativity, and profound gratitude that we feel for being alive at this time. So one thing to keep in mind, if you're watching this prior to December 15th, between the 6th and the 15th of December, we will have both Mercury and Mars in retrograde, and that will really slow down the energy and take you within. It's not a negative, it's a deep internal awakening that's happening. And it's amazing that then Mercury, the ruler of this final full moon of the year, stations direct right during the Gemini full moon, which it rules. And it's actually fortunate that Mercury stations direct on the 15th in Sagittarius, because Mercury and Gemini, Sagittarius and Jupiter, they rule short distance and long distance travel, which is beautiful since a lot of us are traveling for the holidays, of course. So all of that will be supportive to you. And it reminds you too that when you travel, you also are encouraged to explore new areas. It's a wonderful time, especially during the holidays, when you have some extra space to look at where you live. Do you feel comfortable there, or where you want to travel next, right? What is your next wonderful vacation or exploration or adventure that you're planning? And to help you with the most fortunate places in the world is your own astrocartography map. And I have a wonderful free masterclass that you can watch about astrocartography at positivelocations.com. You'll discover the secret power of place. Your astrology chart is superimposed on the world map. It is an incredible resource for you that helps you to see what areas of the world actually are supportive to you and which are not, and even the timing of travel or moving. And I have lots of celebrity astrocartography examples that make it super fun to watch. We also look at a common mistake that people make when they look up their astrocartography online and how to avoid that mistake. And of course, the importance of relocation charts as well. So make sure you watch the free masterclass at positivelocations.com. It's instant access and it's lots of fun. Have a beautiful Gemini full moon, and I will see you in next week's Star Codes podcast. Lots of love.